What's up, everybody? Josh Armijo here. I hope everybody's doing good and well and stuff. I got an album review to do for you, and I'm going to show it to you right now. This is the new album from the band Origin, entitled Omnipresent. This is released in North America through Nuclear Blast Records, and overseas through Agonia Records. Now, if you're not too familiar with this band, they are based out of Topeka, Kansas, and the best way to describe the sound of this band would be a very sci-fi orientated, atmospheric, and altogether technical style of death metal. I mean, Origin are a band that have become very, very synonymous with the technical death metal style and have been doing so for the better part of the last decade plus or so. I mean, this is a band that has a lot of different traits and qualities to them, from their crazy vocal stylings to their really, really technical and superb guitar riffs, to very audible and clean bass tones, to just very, very destructive and chaotic drumming. I mean, Origin have a unique presentation going for them, and have demonstrated so with their body of work over the last decade plus or so. From their self-titled debut to the next three albums that followed that. I mean, the James Lee era, as I like to call the next three albums after the self-titled, really, really brought Origin right into the forefront of things and showcased them as a powerhouse within technical death metal. Really, really incredible music going on with those albums. I mean, Informis, Infinitas, Inhumanitas, Echoes of Decimation, and of course, in my opinion, their best record, Antithesis. Really, really incredible record, and an album that is definitely looked up to by a lot of fans of technical death metal as a really, really great work of art. And then we get to 2011, where we see a bit of a change in the band. Of course, there were many different changes. Of course, James Lee was no longer involved with the band, and they decided to switch up things production-wise. They switched from working with Scott Hull to Colin Marston, and he was detrimental to helping them get back to getting Origin back in the swing of things when it comes to the mixing and mastering, and that was very, very well evidented on their previous release, Entity. I thought Entity was a really, really good album, even with the inclusion of just the three main principal members, Paul Ryan, Mike Flores, and John Longstreth. Really, really great album. But then it was who they announced as their frontman moving forward. They brought in a guy by the name of Jason Kaiser, whom you may best know as the last guy to sing for the band Skinless, and he of course did a phenomenal vocal performance on their album Trample the Weak, Hurdle the Dead. He is a very, very diverse and very, very well executed sort of vocalist. I mean, great highs, great gutturals. This guy has a great vocal style, and I figured he would be a perfect match to complement Origin's style. And of course, now moving forward through many, many live appearances, tours, and the whole 9 yards, we get the first piece of recorded studio material with Jason on vocals this time around, and I was very, very interested to hear the finished results. And now here we are with their sixth full-length, entitled Omnipresent. It's 12 tracks, and it clocks in at around 34 minutes in length, and pretty much, this is the typical Origin sort of record. Pretty much, if you were familiar with the sound and ideas that were going on the last Origin record, you're going to pick them up quite nicely here with Omnipresent. And of course, the inclusion of Jason being their new frontman, it does make somewhat of a unique sort of difference. But aside from that, it's pretty much business as usual when it comes to Origin, and they deliver a lot of very, very creative music going on here. As, of course, with any Origin record, you're going to get a manifestive sort of, what am I saying here? You're going to get a guitar playing clinic from Paul Ryan here on this album, and he is an incredibly dominant guitar player, handling a lot of the technical aspects of the guitar. Great, great riff work. Awesome, awesome solo work. Very, very intricate and detailed. I mean, going to the beginning of this album with All Things Dead, and to even a short track like Thrall, Fulcrum, Apex. Just some really, really top-of-the-line riff work going on those tracks. To even moving later on into the album with songs like The Absurdity of What I Am and Source of Icon O, you just get some really, really crazy, crazy guitar work going on here. Very technical, very spastic, and very, very crazy sounding. That's always been a key factor for Paul Ryan, is the fact that he's a very crazy sort of guitar player. He's like a mad, twisted genius when it comes to this sort of stuff, and I think it's really, really fun and entertaining. To even one of the instrumental tracks of this album, Continuum, really, really showcasing his ideas of being a more, spacey and philosophical sort of guitar player, and he definitely shows that with the brief instrumentation that's on that one particular song. But throughout this entire album, he just delivers some very, very heavy, heavy riffs. Even going to a track like Redistribution of Filth, where you get some pretty almost thrashy elements with some of the riff works on the very beginnings of that track. But then moving on to the later half of that song, you get the typical Origin factor with some very, very crazy and just absurdly technical riffs. This guy knows exactly what he's doing, and he delivers something very, very entertaining. Moving on to the bass, Mike Flores is an amazing bassist, and I definitely love the fact that he stole the show basically on the last Origin record with Entity. I thought his bass guitar on that record was just so smooth and accurate and very, very clear and well heard. And here on Omnipresent, it pretty much feels the same way to me. Very, very clean bass tone, very well heard, very well articulated throughout this album's mix. I'm definitely appreciating the fact that he doesn't try to outdo himself when it comes to the way he handles himself on the bass. It mainly is a Paul Ryan dominated sort of guitar clinic, but when you do hear Mike Flores' bass, it is incredibly clear and accurate sounding, I would say. Going back to the track, The Absurdity of What I Am, I think he does a very, very phenomenal bass guitar performance on that track. But he is a very, very patient and very well-astute sort of bass player, and he really, really handles himself nicely here. Moving on to the drums, of course, the mighty John Longstreth. He has been a major impact player for the band, and here on Omnipresent, he definitely showcases the kind of style that you would best know him best for. Pretty much it's not as crazy and as chaotic as it was on Entity, but here on Omnipresent, when he does showcase his diversity in different styles, I think it's really, really awesome. I love his double bass tones. I love his quick sort of fills, the kick and snare, the fills, just the way everything is syncopated and patterned out here. I think it works very well here. Going to tracks like Unattainable Zero, and once again on the track Redistribution of Filth, it has a bit of a thrashy element towards the very beginnings of the track, and then moving on later on, you get the traditional Origin sort of drum performance. Very chaotic, filled with fast double bass and blast beats. Pretty much, if you know what John Longstreth is about, he definitely delivers a really, really solid drum performance going on here. And moving on to the instrumentals of this record, it feels a little bit weird hearing some sci-fi sort of instrumentation. It almost adds a bit of idea to this album's sort of science fiction sort of concept. I mean, you hear tracks like Permanescence, and then of course you get to Continuum, which of course boasts the really, really great guitar playing by Paul Ryan. But then you get to a track like Obsolescence, which feels very, very over the top and symphonic. I believe my very good friend Lone Goat from Goatcraft is playing keyboards on that particular track, so I think it's awesome that he did some keyboard work for Origin on this album, and to hear it on that track really, really sets the mood quite perfectly. And lastly, we get to Jason's vocal styling. I was very interested to hear how his vocals would merge on an Origin recording, and pretty much if you're familiar and accustomed with his vocal style, he definitely does very, very well here. You get the mixture of his low guttural sounding growls, very well worded and very articulate. He's not guttural to the point where you can't understand him. He is a very, very concise and articulate sort of vocalist. But then you get to his more mid-range screams and his just really high-end sort of screams. I think that's awesome. I've always liked his high styles. It sounds very, very scary sounding at times, but yet he does handle himself really well when it comes to the vocal diversity, and of course the lyrics being very, very intelligent and very thoughtful. Of course, once again, mentioning the sci-fi aspects of this band, I think it's really, really entertaining. Really, really great lyrical content. And, of course, the shorter songs on here definitely get the job done here. It definitely makes this album's pace go along that much quicker. And I do think it's a little bit crazy to see this band do a cover of Stormtroopers of Death's song Kill Yourself at the very end. This is, of course, on the North American version of the album. You get the bonus track of the SOD cover, which I think is pretty fun to listen to. But aside from that cover song, you get a really, really solid album from Origin. So overall, I don't know if I like this album more than I did Entity. I thought Entity was a great album in its own right, but as far as Omnipresent is concerned, I think it's pretty damn solid. I think it's really, really entertaining. There are a lot of really great moments to be heard on this record. Of course, if you're into Origin, if you're a fan of what Origin have put out in the past, you already are going to feel very, very comfortable knowing what you're getting yourself into with Omnipresent. But yeah, if I had to pick any favorite tracks, I would definitely have to say Thrall, Fulcrum, Apex, Manifest Desolate, The Absurdity of What I Am, Unattainable Zero, and Redistribution of Filth. Some really, really awesome stuff. You can purchase this album pretty much anywhere, wherever record stores are available. It is available in North America through Nuclear Blast. You can also get a digipack version through Agonia Records. There's also a special collector's version with patch, keychain, and assorted other goodies. It's also available on 12-inch vinyl, multiple colors. I believe there are versions available through Nuclear Blast and through Agonia Records. And I will link you to the Agonia Records Bandcamp where you can stream the album in its entirety. Hear it for yourself and be your own judge as to whether you think it's worthy of being purchased or not. And I know I recently did the Goat Whore review. Origin are also going to be involved with this year's Summer Slaughter tour, of course touring with many, many major bands from within extreme metal, Morbid Angel, Fallujah, Decrepit Birth, Dying Fetus, the list goes on, and of course Origin will be on the tour supporting their new album, so check them out if you see them live. So I'm going to show you the album again. This is Omnipresent by Origin. This is released on Nuclear Blast Records in North America and in Europe through Agonia Records. Check this out. And as far as the score goes, I'm going to give this a very light 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a very, very entertaining record. I don't know if I liked it as much as Entity, but I still think it's a really fun record to listen to. So if you're into technical death metal and if you're into Origin, you'll find something to enjoy with Omnipresence. So I'm going to conclude this review. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for checking out my channel, and until the next time, Army Ho out.